Okay, well, good afternoon, ladies. I'm Maggie Sappho, Regional Director for the Athena Network, City of London. And I'm really excited to have you all here for today's expert panel. We have a great selection of panelists who will be leading us through this expert panel session. And as you know, the theme for this expert panel sessions are to support us through these times with emotional and business stability. Without further ado, I'll do a little introduction to our facilitator for today, Samantha Jayasuriya. Okay, so Samantha is a leadership energy coach who works with the business and education sector. Her purpose is to help leaders align head, heart, and gut with boosted resilience and increased self-awareness as they become the leaders they really want to be. Learning is a powerful word for Sam whilst in lockdown. So she has learned to care for her inner world by creating cooking as well as crocheting. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to the wonderful Samantha Jayasuriya to take it from here.
Thank you, Maggie, and thank you for allowing me to facilitate this meeting with these wonderful panelists that we have here today. We've got a very, very tight schedule, so I'm going to have to kind of keep an eye on my clock, which is ticking over on the side of me, and keep everybody to time. But enough from me, I want to hear from you. And so what I'm going to ask is for each of you in turn to introduce yourselves and tell everybody who you work for and what your business is. And then to give us a brief overview of what's happening in your world right now. And I'll repeat the question if you forget when I get to you. And I'm going to go across my screen, and the first person who's sitting next to me on my screen is Susanna Ray. So can I ask you to do the introduction and tell us what's happening in your world right now?
Thanks, Sam. Yes, so my name is Susanna Ray and I'm an online business strategist. So what that means is I support mainly service-based businesses, but some products as well, to move their income and impact online. So obviously in my world right now, there's a lot of people who have been thrown sort of online, not necessarily out of choice, whereas in the past years, I would have been dealing with people making that as a positive decision to move online. But there are definitely things that we can discuss today that if you felt yourself thrown online, that can help you just feel a bit more confident and secure that you're doing the right things and you're not missing anything. And I know in particular, some people have issues, worries over Zoom. And so I've got some Zoom top tips I'm happy to share as well for people who are new into that world.
Thank you. That's fantastic, Susanna. Right, I'm going to move on to Allison.lindsay, or would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us what's going on in your world.
Thanks, Sam. So I'm Allison. I'm a business psychologist and breathworker, and I run the School for Wellbeing. So I focus on helping women through transitions and with purpose, resilience building, and also small and medium-sized enterprises, helping them with their employee resilience and really getting focused on their vision and where they want to take their business. So what I've been seeing over the last few weeks is a lot of people really stuck in fear. They're panicking about what's happening. They're desperately trying to get online, don't know how to do it. It's not really working, trying to kind of catch up with everyone else and feeling like they're failing. And so where I'm really coming from is that sort of creative business planning. So taking that moment of actually use this as a time to step back, to think about your business. Where do you want it to go going forwards over the next 3, 6, 12 months, rather than just getting caught up in a real flail of activity that isn't perhaps really taking you forwards in line with your strategy. So that's what I've been advising people on and coaching them around, because obviously as a business psychologist and coach, it's really helping them think through those issues. Thanks, Sam.
Fantastic. So you're getting people to take a breath.
Yes, massive breath. Hopefully several.
Lovely. Let's move on to Rhiannon. Rhiannon, have I said that right, Rhiannon? Rhiannon
Yes.
Carpio?
Carpio, yeah.
Carpio, it's so nice to meet you. So tell us what you do and what's going on in your world.
So I work with small businesses to help find them the right type of funding for their business. So that could be a very simple exercise of looking at the funding that's available and matching the right product. Or to be honest, at the moment we're doing a lot of work with clients on what's also available through other schemes, because there's so much support, which I'll talk about later, but so much government support and things that we've not seen before, and everything's kind of brand new. It's very difficult, I think, for businesses to understand exactly the support that is available for them and what the right type of help is. So at the moment, a lot of what we're doing is looking at finance and regular stuff that we would do normally, but actually starting with the basics and what finance or what support a business needs and where that can come from.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So next we're going to move on to Emma Grace. Emma Grace, tell us who you are and what's going on in your world right now.
Thanks, Sam. So I'm Emma Grace. I run emmagracetherapy. I typically work with women around retirement age who are struggling with shoulder pain and are worried that that's going to stop them doing the things they want to do, enjoy doing as they get older. And I get their body feeling great again and give them increased energy and focus during this major transition, so that they can step into the future with confidence and joy. How does that relate to what's going on now? Big time of transition. I work with body, mind and life to make sure everything's working fine. What I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, as I will sound very familiar to a lot of you, people who are stressed because of loss of routine, who are feeling overwhelmed with work and family. Actually, sometimes people are feeling a massive lack of motivation. They just don't care and they're just disengaged. And people also get frustrated and irritated by things. And yes, the fear of being ill and the fear of losing people, and actually the reality of losing people in some cases as well, tragically. This is showing up with all sorts of feelings, and also their bodies often feel off. So there's tension, there's stiffness. They might feel very unfit because they can't do what they usually do. And also sometimes you're getting strange symptoms or new symptoms showing up. So digestive issues are very common. I've worked with a lady who started getting nosebleeds and sore teeth and a sore jaw and that sort of thing. So it's showing up emotionally and physically in different ways for people.
Fantastic. I'm sure that resonates with lots of us who are sitting here. I get Zoom shoulders. I actually really know that I get Zoom shoulders, and I have to do some things to kind of release the tension.
Yeah.
You kind of hold yourself in a certain way as you go through lots of these online conversations. So we've got a range of questions that some of them have come in from outside from the panel, and some of them, you think are key areas that are, I think you would like your the people today who've dialed in and people who will be following on this on our YouTube channel later on, to help them manage some of these sort of areas in their life right now, so that they can get the best out of their businesses and their whole life whilst they're in lockdown. So I'm going to start with questions to each of you in turn, if that's okay with you. And then you answer the questions. We've got about 20 minutes for this. And if Maggie's going to point out any questions that might come through on the chat, which I can then put to each of the individual panelists. Is that all right? Okay, so I'm going to go to Rhiannon. So Rhiannon, obviously the sort of finance side is really quite critical for everybody right now, particularly if you're in a small business owner. So the first question I wanted to ask you today is, can I actually claim furlough as a company director?
Yeah, you can. You can, if you are a director of your own limited company and you pay yourself with PAYE, then you can claim up to 80% of your regular salary, as long as that doesn't exceed 2,500. Right. It means that you can't work for the company while you're furloughed. There's not hugely clear guidance, but I would take that to mean that you can't do anything that is income generating. What is interesting though is you can take yourself on and off furlough as long as each period is at least 3 weeks. So if you've got project work coming in, or you're expecting income to come in, you can furlough yourself for the time that you're not working, and then give yourself a little bit of time to do what needs to be done, and then go back onto furlough, which might be useful if your regular flow of work has decreased and there's a lot less available, then it might help to structure it in that way. You can claim 80% of your normal director's salary plus some national insurance pension contributions. The scheme is live, so you just need to apply through your HMRC portal. You must be registered for PAYE, and you would have to have been registered for PAYE as of February. So you have to be on the payroll at 28th of February in order to be able to claim. Just see if there's anything else. There's no calculator available, so the HMRC website does have a calculator for staff. You can't use it for directors, but there are a lot of guidance notes, so I'll send a link out to that after the session as well.
Thank you, that's really clear. And I think that whole thing about phasing in and out and furlough, I think that's really useful information for so many people who are dialing in. I'm going to go over to Susanna. So Susanna, what are the essential elements I need to run an online business?
Well, I would have to say the first element is most definitely direction and focus, which obviously happens a lot in offline business. But what I do see is there's a lot of people who move online and then they get distracted by what I call shiny object syndrome of all these adverts saying, hey, you can get 6 figures, 7 figures overnight if you follow my magic bullet. It's the same as any offline business when you work online. So you do need to know what you want to do. And that means having the defined products and offers that you know you can serve to your people. So that's the next stage of really thinking about that. And you do really need a website as well. Is a lot of people these days think, well, I can do everything on social media. Why do I need to host my own website? But I'm sure all of you are aware here that you don't own the social media. If Facebook goes down, and it has been known to, then that means you lose contact with your clients that way. So I do suggest that when people move on, an essential element is having a website, but not just a still website which says, hey, email me. It's also really important to have something we call in the industry as a lead magnet that encourages people to share their name and their email address so you can bring them into your world, because that is the only thing you have control of to contact people, and that's how you connect on a regular basis. So yes, having a core social media presence is important, but really the essential is about having a website and an email list that you control and use. And that's where I'd say people need to focus on.
Perfect. Thank you. That's really very kind of sensible and clear advice to all of our listeners. So next I'm going to go over to Alison. Alison, kind of following on from that. So what is creative business planning in time of crisis? And why did you decide to tackle this subject?
Okay, thank you. So I want to mention my partner in this, Melanie Christou, who's also part of the Liverpool Street Group. And we were chatting just as this was all, everything was kind of beginning to kick off, and talking about how it was really impacting our business, and we were seeing it impacting the businesses of our clients. You know, the whole world is changing, and really noticing this sense of panic amongst people. And we thought, you know what we felt we could both offer as coaches was an opportunity for people to take this moment for reflection and to really have some guided facilitation and some structure in terms of how to think through what they would like to do over the next 3, 6 to 12 months. So that's where we came up with the idea of we're going to be running a workshop which we'll be offering Athena members a discount to. But essentially it's about getting some ideas, brainstorming with other people who are in similar position, so that actually we can help each other, benefit each other, and then also getting some accountability. So really thinking about, how do I get these ideas? I've got a million ideas, as Susanna said, you know, there's so many thoughts running around. Which ones do I think are actually going to work? Can I stress test them with some other people to see, actually, is this real or is it just an idea running around in my head? And then how do I turn that into a concrete plan to make it real? And we also see it as an opportunity to really revisit your personal and your business values compass. it's really easy to get caught up in, oh, so-and-so's doing this and my competitor's doing that, and forgetting our own values. And we think it's really important to be staying true to that, revisiting that and saying, how can I take my business forward in this time of real uncertainty while still staying true to my values and what I believe in. So that's really what the creative business planning is about. It's taking stock, sitting back for a moment, taking that breath and going, okay, now let's try and think clearly, and maybe doing some different scenario planning, thinking about what might happen, how can I respond in a creative and fresh way.
I think it's very much in with what Susanna was saying about avoiding the shiny.
Absolutely.
Really,
absolutely.
Core strengths are. Okay, so over to Emma. So Emma, we were talking, you that whole point about being true to yourself. How can I improve how I feel and how I'm showing up in my life and business?
It's a really good question. I think a lot of people are asking that at the moment. So what I'm actually going to ask you all to do is I'm going to ask you to hunch over and, obviously staying safe, hold your breath. And then I want you to think about how you're feeling in your body and how you're feeling in your emotions, what you're thinking. You're thinking bad thoughts about me. What's this woman doing? Why am I doing this? Okay, you can now breathe. And I now go to, right, can you go off and do a really important business task now? How well do you think you're going to perform there? Or call someone who needs your support. How well are you going to be showing up to that? Okay. And now think about how much of each day most of us spend like this on our computers, or how often you hold your breath when you're stressed. And now I'm going to ask you to stretch, lean back, stretch your arms as wide as you can. Think about something or someone who makes you smile and just smile. And enjoy the moment and how you're feeling in your body and how you're feeling in your emotions. And now if you had to go and do that business task, how do you think you would show up compared to last time? If you had to make that call to that person who needs your support. Yeah. So if you want to change how you're showing up in life and in business, very simply, you need to do something different. And on a very basic biological level, you need to change, you need to move, and you need to do things that bring you joy and peace. And the trick is to find out what those things are and how you incorporate those in your life.
Okay, that's the $1 million question that we're all asking.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on. Thank you very much. That was great. And I actually felt my shoulders really definitely got the benefit of that, my super shoulders. Thank you. I'm going to ask so many questions here, and I really want to make sure we get through as many as we can. I'm going to go straight back to Rhiannon. And actually, I've got a question here that's come through from Jackie Larson. It says, the guidance for self-employed people seems less clear. And if income is irregular, how do you advise claiming?
So it is less clear. Basically, with the self-employed help, it's a self-employed grant. What that means is it's a one-off payment. At the moment, it is the equivalent of 3 months trade. So from the workshops that I've been on, basically, it depends how long you've been self-employed for. So if you have submitted, everything will be calculated from your self-assessment tax return. So if you've submitted self-assessments for the last 3 years, then HMRC will take an average of the last 3 years, basically annualize it and work out what the 80% equivalent would be for 3 months. We do know it's going to come as a one-off payment. We do know at the moment it's still 3 months. It's not been extended to 4 months. And HMRC will contact you mid-May to advise if you're eligible, and I believe also to tell you how much you're eligible for. Payments are expected to be made by early June. So what you can do is you can look at the qualification. So the qualification is that your profits must be below 50,000. So if you've declared profits over 50,000, you won't be eligible. You had to have been registered for the 2018-2019 tax year. So you had to already have your unique tax reference code and everything to be able to do that. Key is that your self-assessment, if they were late for 2018-2019, must have been submitted by Monday. It was by the 23rd. It must have been submitted by the 23rd of April. So if you haven't done that, then the deadline for having the numbers worked out on the 2018-2019 figures will have passed. 50% of your income does have to be from self-employment, and it looks as if you can both furlough yourself as a company director and also claim the self-employed grant if you have been declaring dividends and completing your self-assessment. Maybe you've got income from other places.
Thank you. That's a really comprehensive answer. Hopefully, Jackie,
I hope it wasn't too much.
Answered your question. So if you can put a little note in the chat box, that would be really helpful. Okay, over to Susanna. So you talked about the website. Now thinking about a bit further, what are 2 key essentials that we need to have in our digital toolkit right now for business transition or to sell or deliver more online?
Well, with those, I mean, I mentioned them a bit before, but the ones that I'd really highlight that I also see a lot of people sort of fail on is within Facebook, is you want to make sure you do have a professional sort of presence in your personal profile just as much as your business pages. So what I see, and the reason is this, is when you move online, is a way that you gather new people towards you, is you start getting sort of interactive and you engage in communities. Most communities worth their salt will only let you enter as your personal profile, because social is about connecting person to person. So that means anyone who's curious about what you're commenting on, what you're liking, if you like their post, if they're curious about you, where they're going to land is your personal Facebook page. And there's a lot of control people can have actually over this as to what's open to the public, which is the curious people will be landing on. And that's your big cover image, your personal profile picture. Make it you. Please don't have your dogs, your children, your husband in there, because if they're curious about you and what you do professionally, it's yourself that you're going to be in there. And there's also a great opportunity to have some signposting towards your business page on Facebook, towards your website, to other social accounts that you have. So I would really suggest that everyone here do a bit of an audit on your Facebook personal profile and make sure that is how you'd like to be seen if you were going to a networking event, if you were showing up. Is it giving that professional way? So I don't want it to go salesy though as well. So still you can have elements of your personal hobbies and interests, because that's nice to show. And there's some little photos that are always featured and open to the public. And make sure you show a bit of your personality in there, because if you think about it, when we meet people for the first time, you're like interested in where do you live or what do you like doing in your spare time. It's not all about business. So I think I'd actually wrap that up. Is probably, in terms of the time we've got, I'll turn it into the one essential
perfect
of looking at your Facebook personal profile.
Thank you so much. Okay, over to Alison. So Alison, what are some common misconceptions that business owners have about how to be proactive in this time of crisis?
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is it's a few things. Some people are just thinking, as long as I'm doing something, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm doing something and getting out there and putting some posts out there and things like that, then at least I'm doing something. I'm raising my profile. But actually, it is more about taking a strategic approach to what you're putting out there. Again, linking in, I think, a bit to what Susanna was saying about really thinking about how you want to be seen, how you want to be heard. Another thing that I'm seeing quite a bit of is, particularly with clients who've got hands-on businesses, like some of the therapists and those sort of people, really feeling that actually they just have to stop. They're paralyzed. There's nothing they can do to move their business forward until things go back to normal, whatever that may look like, obviously, once this is done. Yes. And with that, I would encourage them to think more broadly. Maybe there are some parts of the business they can put online, some services, other parts maybe not. But also, again, to think more broadly about what can they still be doing. So one of the things I've been encouraging people to do is to really invest for the future. So think about perhaps you can up your marketing. How can you raise your profile? amongst potential new clients, so that you are building that email list that Susanna was mentioning. It's absolutely critical. It is the one thing that you own. So I think really focusing on that, so that even if you can't sell to people actively now, you can be, you're building your business for the future, so that when things do come back, you have that opportunity. And then the final big misconception I think I'm really seeing a lot is people expecting that things will go back to normal, whatever that is. And I think that's just not going to happen, certainly not in the short term. And I think we have to prepare for a new normal, and to adapt and flex our businesses. It doesn't mean changing it wholesale, but just think about actually what can I do to still be sustainable, to change, and to really think through what are possible scenarios of what normal might look like over the next year, 2 years, even 5 years. This could be an ongoing thing that keeps coming back. We have to keep adapting to it. So how do I make my business sustainable, and not just sitting back and thinking when it all goes back to normal it'll be fine and I can just pick up where I left off, because I don't think that's going to be a reality.
So a key word out of that is definitely that to be flexible and to have flex in your business plan.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Adaptability. Yeah, thanks.
I'm going over to Emma now. So Emma, no, this is a question that people may have in their heads right now. I'm so busy actually right now that I don't have any time to do any of these things, but I enjoy. What else, or what can I do to help myself?
Yeah, so that's a thing that's coming up a lot. And, I say to people, you need to make sure that you're moving, and you need to make sure you're doing things that make you happy and bring you joy and peace. And people are like, that's great, but I have no time. So, for example, with one client I have, she's in a new job. It's very stressful. There's a lot. She feels like she has a lot to prove. And she's also supporting lots of people. So we've actually looked at, firstly, how she can put in boundaries around her tasks. This task will take this amount of time. That's the time allotted to it, and just stick with that. With her dad, who she's supporting every day, yes, she will still speak to him every day, but she won't just take his calls throughout the day. She will say, I'm going to talk to you between 5 and 5:30. And that is the time, that is your time. And that's when I'll support you, because he's also quite a draining man to deal with, I think. So partly it's putting in boundaries. Second thing is, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Another client who has got a very responsible job in a charity, so you can imagine the pressures there, is also supporting a big team with their own troubles. What she started doing, she puts on one of her favourite songs and she does star jumps throughout the song, and then at the end of it she's feeling happy, she's moved her body, she's unstuck, she's just totally changed the place that she's in. So boundaries around time, where can you save time, and what little things can you do that are just short, that will really lift you.
Thank you, that's really fantastic. Right, I'm going to keep cracking on. We are at the moment, we have got some questions coming through on the chat, but I'm going to keep going with some of the questions I have already, and then we'll come back to the chat roll in a moment. So Rhiannon, back to support for businesses. So what support is actually available to self-employed individuals, and what is the criteria for this?
To self-employed, I think did we cover quite a lot of that one already?
Okay, well sorry, that was my mistake. Maybe I'll ask the same question twice.
I can answer it again if you
want. No. Let's go on to the next question, which is, which businesses will actually receive government grants?
So essentially it's trading businesses with premises that are going to get the government grants. And it's premises that either qualify for rates relief, so that might be small business or rural rates relief, or who have rateable values of between 15 and 51,000. And those grants are also going to businesses within the retail, hospitality or leisure industry. So if your rates are between 15,000 and 51, then you'll qualify for a grant within those sectors. They're being administered by local authority, and most local authorities will have been in touch. So most businesses by now should know if they're eligible for one of the 10 or 15,000 pound grants, when and how they're going to get them. What has come out on Monday, so we're still waiting for details of how to apply, is not strictly a grant, but it is kind of a midway point between the previous CBILS loans and some help and support for smaller businesses now. And that's an initiative called the Bounce Back Loan, which is very much designed for smaller businesses who just won't be able to get the previous CBILS facility. We are waiting for more information, but what we've got at the moment says you can apply for between 2,000 and 50,000. The amount you are eligible for is based on 25% of your turnover or 50,000, whichever is the bigger of the two. There's no fees, interest or repayments due for the first 12 months, and the loan terms can run for 6 years. You can't apply if you can only have that one or the CBILS, but for businesses that don't qualify for a grant, that are in a strong position and just need some help to get through this time, then that might be something that's worth considering, because the grants actually are quite narrow. They're retail, hospitality and leisure, and their premises. And there's a lot of businesses that fall outside of that, and perhaps don't want the difficulty in getting CBILS, which is not easy to get at all. This will launch on Monday, and it's apparently meant to be a lot easier, but there's normally a disconnect between what's said and what happens, so we'll wait and see. But it could be an alternative option.
Thank you. That's again really comprehensive answer. Alison, over back to you. So, for a solo entrepreneur, somebody like me, would you advise changing business models in a time of crisis?
I wouldn't. Certainly not in the short term. And there's a few reasons for this. I think there's some really big risks in terms of completely changing your business model. Firstly, your customers have come to you presumably because they like what you do. They were drawn to that in the first place. So if you go for a wholesale shift, you risk alienating people that are already your customers. And as we know, it's much easier to sell to existing customers than it is to find a new customer, easier and cheaper to do that. So we want to make sure we're maintaining our existing base. Also, you change everything, suddenly the world changes again. No one anticipated it was going to change like this. Then what do you do if you've got to change again? And you look like you're inconsistent, it's not aligned with your values, with your brand. So I think there's a real risk there as well. There's also a risk of looking a bit opportunistic. And if people see you being what they perceive as opportunistic, even if you're not intending to be, that can be a real turn off, and we tend to get punished for doing that. So it's for those reasons I would recommend not immediately changing your business model. I think it goes back to this question of flexibility and adaptability. But what I would really recommend is reach out to your customers, keep talking to them, see how you can strengthen those relationships that you've already got. Ask them what you can do. Ask them what are they worried about? How can you help them? And then that might give you the idea as to how you can stay in line with your current business model, stay true to your values and to why they came to you in the first place, but also how you might flex and adapt a little in order to maintain those relationships, in order to be able to remain in business at this time.
Fantastic. Great. Another fantastic response. Got some amazing answers from all of you today. I'm really super impressed. Back to Susanna. So I have done some flex here, and I've got myself out on Zoom. As the host, what security settings should I use?
Well, there's a simple 5. So before you link up, think of the 5 things. 1 is passwords. Now, by default, Zoom is actually setting passwords for your meetings now, but make sure you're obviously sharing those with your attendees so you don't have lots of people getting stuck. Passwords help. Waiting rooms are also even better, so you can just double check who's coming in. So waiting rooms are really good when you know who you're expecting. Obviously, if you're holding a bit more of an open door scenario, then a waiting room, you could let someone in who you equally don't know because you don't know anyone, like an Athena meeting. But they are nice to bring people in, but you've got to be aware with waiting rooms, you as the host have to keep admitting people. So that's going to delay the start of your meeting. But another great facility is you can lock a meeting. So once you're live, if you know all your attendees are in, so particularly if you're wanting to do one-to-one consultations, I suggest once your attendee is there, you lock the meeting. That means no one else can come in, even if they've got exactly the same link. And a trick I sometimes do with some of my group coaching sessions is I tell people I will lock the meeting 5 or 10 minutes in. So that means people have to turn up on time as well, because one of the worst parts of etiquette is when people feel in Zoom, they can just hop in and out regardless, but it's the same as an in-person meeting in a room. You don't want people rolling in late, and you can use the lock meeting feature to help you secure people inside, but also encourage people to turn up on time if they want to be involved. And the last two elements are, if it's a big open session, as a host, you can turn off screen sharing and file sharing. So that means people can't, like in this meeting right now, I can share my screen. I could also throw a file into the chat, which you may or not want as the host. So you can turn that off. And lastly, Zoom is updating regularly on a weekly basis at the moment, because they've gone from 10 million users to something like 3 billion in the last 3 months. They've had a crazy increase, which is why there's been these various things, because obviously the hackers have gone, woohoo, that's a new game we're going to play, we're bored at home. And that's why you might have heard some of the negatives. But if you use these 5 things, keep Zoom updated, turn off file sharing and screen sharing, lock your meetings, use waiting rooms and use passwords, you should be set and secure in all your meetings.
Thank you. That was really great. And I do apologise for the Zoom bomber who came into my meeting just now, hence my dog who just managed to push the door open. So in a moment I might have to let her out, but that was fantastic. Thank you. Right, over to Emma. So Emma, how do I keep my spirits up when all things that I usually have at my fingertips are just not there and are no longer possible?
Yeah, that's really tricky. It's a question of either being creative and adapting what you love to what is now possible, and I prefer actually noticing new things that you enjoy. I think often people can be quite bad at noticing small things that gives them pleasure. And there are various techniques you can use to notice them. For example, a client I'm working with has her full family at home, including her extended family, and is working at home. And she's very claustrophobic. She likes to go out, go on holidays, go to spas. She can't do any of those things. She's really slightly desperate. And actually what we discovered that she really, really wanted was to have 10 or 20 minutes journaling with a cup of tea. So we helped her work out what it was what would help her, what she was yearning for, and how she's going to accommodate that in her day. And it just makes the rest of her life so much easier. Another client, he loves cycling in groups. He loved the sort of the group aspect and the physical aspect of it, and he's been really missing that. And so we sort of thought about how we can recreate that. And he's gone and found online dance classes. So again, it's the group people, the group dynamic, the joy, and the physical aspects. So.
Thank you. Now, I can see there are some questions on the chat roll, but I'm also very conscious of time. I wonder, Maggie, if we put people into breakout rooms, then maybe some of those questions could be answered in the breakout rooms. What do you think, Maggie?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So we're going to go into breakout sessions for about 10 minutes, and you'll have the opportunity to ask some individual questions to your host. And then we'll be returning back in about 10 minutes time, just to kind of do the final call to actions and answer any last minute questions that might come through. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Maggie just to put you all into breakout rooms.
Fabulous. Thank you, Sam. Okay, so I have put you all in breakout rooms. And so what's going to happen is I will now open the breakout rooms, and you will see a little pop-up on your screen. If you click on accepting that, then that takes you automatically to the breakout room. Once you're in the room, just stay there. We will be there for about 8 to 10 minutes. When it's time to bring everyone back, what I'm going to do is close the breakout rooms again, and you will see a countdown pop up on your screen. If you click on it immediately, you will be brought back into the main room. However, if you wait till the 60 seconds countdown is over, you will be returned to the room as well. Either way is fine, but just to make you aware. Okay, so if you're ready, I will put you in your breakout rooms now.
You did.
Yeah.
So then you should speak to your authority. You should speak to the council
I'll check that.
and see what they say.
Well, 'cause
the only thing is, if it's in Edinburgh, I don't know if the rule is different. I don't know if it's being handled differently in Scotland.
I need to check that, because that's another thing. We've been paying like an office space, and we've got business rates.
Yeah, so then you should absolutely speak to your local authority. There might be something there,
but
some local authorities have got access to like hardship funds and additional funds that is not kind of being publicised so much. So I would say if you were paying rates, you should definitely speak to them.
But until the end of 2019, right? We can still just think, because like right smack.
I think it's going to be the intention of the grants is that if you have a trading sorry, Maggie. The intention of the grants.
I'm going to go. I was just popping in and out some of.
Okay.
Then talking about things which are just business specific.
Well, what you can have on your LinkedIn business page is you can write articles in LinkedIn, so you can then feature them on your business page. So you're having the sort of a bit like you'd have a lead magnet that you'd have on your website as well, that would attract, or might be what people are thinking about, is you want to answer those initial questions, of which one of them is like, I've inherited this piece of jewelry, I've no idea what the stone is, can you help me? And then you can have a featured, like an article that you write on LinkedIn. And the advantage on your business page, because you're not posting regularly, in the sense that you can just have some key articles there that help people connect. But what you really want to do is get them off LinkedIn and into your website and connecting with you.
So you can just have direct links. And I presume in terms of a difference between articles and posts, it's just length, isn't it? So I think a post is character, like they max you out at 1300. And so it's more short, sharp, almost.
Yeah, it's like everyday share.
Yeah.
This is interesting to you. This is how we're connecting. I've read this, or I'm attending this meeting, or I might be showing at this fair. That's the sort of thing you'll be doing every day, whether it's on.
Right, we have. That's fantastic. Can we leave videos on now? I think we can. Can we not?
We can do, yes.
Yes, you can leave your videos on so we can see all of you. So it's been fantastic. A fantastic session. It's gone like in a flash. We've got another 5 minutes, which I'm going to individually go to our 4 panelists for any final closing call to actions, any links that they might want to share, anything that which is really important right now for them to share with us. There's one question I think may not have been picked up that I'd like to just follow through. And that came from Bic Wong, who wanted to know, I think it was a question for Susanna, are there any effective podcasts that she should either be listening to or following at this time? And Vic, if that's not the right question, please add in anything that you wish to say.
Thank you. What I was getting at was for Susanna's opinion indications of how to create a successful podcast, length, content, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, so obviously that's a huge area in itself with only having a few minutes. But keys to setting up your own podcast, again, like anything, it's what's your goal? Why are you doing it? How are you going to help people? Most people as well, podcasts, they can vary in length. Some people love connecting to hour-long, listening to case studies and it turning into a real story that they connect to. Other people much prefer having like 5-minute, 10-minute tips. So it's really needing to delve down into what you can provide for your business and what your clients would actually have the time, the need for. So there isn't, unfortunately, a one solution fits all. It's like, I wish there was, so it'd make things a lot easier. But the main thing is to really think about your title of your podcast is also calling out to who you want your listeners to be. So unless you're like a superstar already in your field, people won't be searching your name. they will just be searching what they want the podcast to be on. So the name is super important as you set up, and also the image, that when you book it onto the sort of podcast stores, there's lots of different ones, it goes down into a tiny square thumbnail. So make it bright. If the podcast's about you, do put your image in there as well, and make sure the title stands out. But in terms of the length, that's really down to who you're reaching out to.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, everybody, I'm going to go around in turn. I'm going to start with Rhiannon. So Rhiannon, call to actions, key messages that you want to give our group today.
So I think that the key message is probably that it's a very rapidly changing market for business as a whole, and especially for finance and what's available. So I think my call to action would be just to get in touch if it's for your own business or someone else's business, if there's anybody struggling to understand the finance support, the funding options currently available, and even if it's the right decision and the right option to take on additional debt at the moment, because that's what finance is. As part of my advice service, I'll go through your cash flows and overall business health to look at if funding is the right solution, if it's the right solution now, maybe in the future, or if there's any other of the government schemes or anything else that can be utilised to help you get through this period and back to whatever our new normal is.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Emma Grace, what's your final call to action?
So I just want people to bear in mind two things: move and do things that bring you joy and peace. I understand that it's quite easy to say that, but actually figuring out how that looks can be more tricky. So if you want help kind of working out what's going on for you and the solutions that you need, please do get in touch. I'm really happy to have a chat. I will put my details in the chat box, but if you're watching this on replay, my email address is emmagracetherapy@gmail.com. And I won't give you my phone number. You just drop me an email and we'll go from there.
Lovely, thank you, Emma. Alison, what are your last thoughts today?
Yes, I think my last thoughts are really just to use this opportunity to pause, to breathe, and to think about where you want your business to go. How can you continue to serve your customers in this environment and as things might change? I'd encourage, if anybody wants to get in touch and have a chat about things, then you can call me. I'll put my details in the chat room. I do a free 30-minute discovery call. I'll give you my email address as well. So it's Allison.lindsay@schoolforwellbeing.com. And also, obviously, there's the workshop that Melanie and I will be running next Thursday on the 7th of May. And so if you'd like to come to that, we're offering a £20 discount for Athena members. So I'll put that in the chat. So I'll put the link to the booking page and the details of the code that you can do to use that. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. And lastly, Susanna, what's your final call to action?
Well, my final call to action has to be that if you're thinking about longer term wanting to have an online business revenue stream, then now is actually a good time to reflect and think about those actions. And what I'd love you to do, I've put my business details in, but across social media, my handle is @SusannaRay. My website is susannaray.com. You can contact me on the same sort of email address in that sense. And that's something else that I would encourage you, that if you're getting out there more on social media, try and have the same handle across. On LinkedIn, you can make a vanity URL where you have your name there. So if you're sharing in a networking group, it's not LinkedIn / a load of numbers. You can actually have your name in there in the same way on Facebook you can with Instagram. Make it easy for people to find you online and use your name as much as possible.
Thank you. So it's back to Maggie in a moment, but thank you. Have I missed anybody out? No, I haven't. Thank you everybody for joining this panel today. Fantastic insights, great learning from all of us and from all of you. Thank you so much. Maggie, I'm back to you.
Fabulous. Wow. What an expert session. Thank you so much to our facilitator, Sam. You did a wonderful job. Thank you to all our beautiful panelists. Wow, what a knowledgeable group of people. Thank you so much. And thank you to every single one of our attendees, because you make this possible. Thank you so much for showing up, for asking all those interesting questions. I do hope that this has started to maybe answer some of the questions that you already had, or open some new doors for you to explore things further as we go through this period. As I said before, the aim for these expert panel sessions are all about emotional and business stability and support. So feel free to get in touch with the panelists. The recording would be hosted privately on YouTube, and I'll share it with you and the network as well. So feel free to get in touch and come with any questions, and I'm here to support as we go along as well. Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day. Look at these as opportunities. You know, in all of this, there's great opportunities. So look at it as opportunities and take the advice and move forward with it. Susanna, you wanted to say something?
Yes, before everyone goes, there's 3 dots at the bottom of the chat box, which lets you save the chat to your computer, which means you'll save all the details that we have shared. Because as a host, you'll automatically get the copy, but it's so much faster if the attendees also take that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great reminder. We actually do that in our meetings, but I forgot this time. So thank you so much for that reminder. So you have all the details, and you will also have the details of the panelists in the follow-up email that I sent as well.